Recently, I was working with a partnership and they wanted to build a plan to grow rapidly in the upcoming year. And the place that they naturally turned is the place that I often turn to when I want to find growth, the new client attraction pipeline. Welcome to this episode of the Your Practice Mastered podcast. My name is Richard James, and this week we're going to be talking where the cash is hiding in your law firm. Can we invest more money in advertising? Can we increase our set rate, our show rate, our hire rate? And those things were always true to some extent. You can optimize at some level, but at some point in a law firm's journey, you've kind of optimized to the extent at which you can. You squeeze as much juice out of every particular lead source and maximize your LTV to CAC ratio. You are able to increase your set rate to some maximum level based on practice area and whether you charge for consults or don't charge for consults. You will get your show rate to maximize based on your reminder sequences and the time at which between when you book the appointment and when you're on the phone with the initial prospect. You maximize your close rate by investing in scripting and recruiting strong non-attorney closers and making sure that the whole team is managed very, very well. At that point, you've maximized that new client attraction pipeline. We're getting higher average case values, more money down, and so on and so forth. And so the question is, what would we do if we wanted to grow through that pipeline? And the answer is, well, we would have to invest more money in advertising. And then we'd have to ask, well, where would we invest more money in advertising? And in this particular case, we identify that there was no real place for us to expand inside their current advertising. We would have to start with a new medium. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm not a big fan of new. I prefer more than better and lastly new. So I wish we could do more with what we already have. Invest more money in a lead source that's performing and kick out more leads. And while that would be my preferred methodology, in this case, it really wasn't an option. So we were going to have to explore looking at a new area. Most law firms have their cash hiding in their workflow. When the client retains the firm, and between that moment and when the case closes, there are stages and there are numbers of days. And depending on the case type and the practice area, we're going to have to optimize what we call the perfect client lifecycle for workflow to make sure we understand where our opportunities are. Is the opportunity in shrinking the number of days it takes us from the time the case is open until the time is closed? Or do we not want to do that for some other case value reason? Is the idea to become more efficient with the way that we work inside of the stages of workflow? Or do we not want to do that because we bill hourly and being too efficient means reducing the overall value of the case? Or do we need to make sure that we're actually billing the right number of hours by the right type of staff members on each case so that we're maximizing the case value? I don't know, but what I do know for this particular firm is we identified that the percentage of cases that we were taking to completion as compared to the number of clients retaining the firm was less than it should be. In this case, it was roughly 56%. So that means that 44% of all of the clients that retained the firm weren't going to the end of their case life cycle. And so the first thing that we identified was how to break that down into stages. You should be able to do this for your firm too, depending on your particular practice area. I'm going to give you an example here of what I call the workflow PCLC. So that's the workflow perfect client lifecycle. Now, if you remember the new client attraction perfect client lifecycle, we're measuring qualified leads versus set appointments versus shows versus hires versus paid in fulls. We're looking at the conversions between them to determine if the conversions are healthy and efficient. So the first thing we had to do after they retained the firms, we had to move to an onboarding meeting. And so you had retention to onboarding. And then from onboarding, we needed the document upload appointment. Then from the document upload appointment, we had petition prep. And then from the petition prep, usually most firms are going to have a petition review internally to make sure the petition is correct. And then we have the signing appointment, and then we had the 341. These are the basic bulk stages that we have in a simple Chapter 7 case. Arguably, Chapter 13 is going to be different. If you did Chapter 11, that would be different. And if you're litigation, you're going to have different stages. So you got to know what your stages are. That's step number one. And then you're identifying where's the lowest hanging fruit. And so you're looking at conversions, right? Number of people retain the firm versus number of people that schedule an onboarding appointment. Number of people who finish their onboarding appointment, schedule their documents, upload appointment, get scheduled onto the petition preparation calendar. And then those who get petition review, then a signing appointment, and then those that move to a 341. And then if there's anything post 341, there would be conversions there as well. And these are all measured basically in percentages. You want this to be as close to 100% as possible, quite frankly. But what we're doing is we're starting to count the number of clients that are in each one of these phases. And then what you're doing is you're identifying the percentage differences between them, and you're looking for the lowest hanging fruit. And you're saying, okay, if I could just move more people through this document upload phase to the petition prep phase, if I could just work through the petition prep phase and make sure I get as many petitions filed as I want. Well, this is the basic premise of it. So let's get into the 2.0 version. Assuming that once we have the outline laid out, we know our stages, we can count how many people are in the stages, we can measure the percentage in between the stages, we can visually see what's going on. That alone, it'll become painfully obvious where you need to focus. Now, some of you are saying in a level 2, you're going, oh, but Rich, you don't understand. We have this collections process that runs all the way through this, and this money makes a difference. Well, I agree with you, because in some cases, you're not going to want to collect the documents until they're paid in full. Maybe your firm will file the case even if they're not paid in full, in which case yours changes a little bit. But what we know to be true is if you get paid on a case and you don't get that case filed, you don't get that case the next stage, that's known in your firm, or should be known in your firm, as a liability. Because that liability is the people who have paid you money and you haven't finished their work, which theoretically they could request a refund. I'm sure you have covenants and you have conditions in your contracts that state that if somebody starts screaming refund and they threaten to go to social media and tell everybody that you're a horrible law firm or go to the bar association, you're going to refund them. So all of those cases that we haven't filed that are paid for at some level are liabilities. We got to get them filed as quickly as possible. And the firm that we were talking about, what we knew was their percentage of retained firms all the way to this ultimate percentage, which is really what I wanted to see, was less than 60%, right? And so less than 60% means that 40% of their cases had not been filed yet. And that number was low. When we looked at this and we laid it out, we could plainly see where the bottleneck was. We could see what the percentages were, and we could start focusing on the lowest hanging fruit. Was it that we had to get more people paid in full? Was it that we needed to get more documents collected? Was it that we needed to get 40 petitions prepped a week and it takes an hour to prep a petition and we only have a part-time petition prep person and they're just out of capacity? Or did we need 60 petitions a week and we only have one full-time petition prep person and it takes an hour to prep a petition and they can't get them all done? Or was it that we don't have enough people to review the petitions and the attorneys were lagging the whole process and they were slowing things down? Or was it that we didn't have enough signing appointments available for people to meet? We need to have 40 signing appointments. If a signing appointment takes half an hour, we need 20 hours of labor plus buffers, more like 30 hours of labor. Do we not have an attorney or paralegal that can do that signing appointment? Are we, where there's client interaction on the onboarding call, the document upload call, and the signing appointment on 341, are we running the BAMFAM system? I've recorded a whole video about that. Book a meeting from a meeting. Are we running BAMFAM all the way through? If we're not, then we're relying on the client to either get back to us or we have to chase down the client to get their next appointment. And that's silly. We should schedule their next appointment while we're on the existing appointment with them. And we can always change it, but at least get an appointment on the book so that we don't have to chase them down. Look, what's happening to most of your firms is that you're filing your cases too slow, or you're not working your cases correctly, and so you've got cases that are sitting there and your hourly billing people aren't working the right cases at the right time, or you have the wrong hourly billing people. You have paralegals working on a case when a lawyer should be working on the case, or you've got cases tied up in different stages and we can't get to the money. Once you start sitting down and you put not only the number to this, and then you start saying, okay, let's actually put the dollar amount. So if I took all of those people that are inside this case and all of the money that hasn't yet been received in our operations account, you can start seeing all this money float to the top. This is what happened with the client I was telling you about. We identified $1 million, $1.5 million that was just sitting around in workflow, and we didn't have to pay attention to new lead sources. The sales process was still working efficiently. What we wanted to pay attention to was fixing our workflow. And when we paid attention to that, we unlocked growth of that firm. Again, this was about a $4 million firm. We could get them to that $5, $6 million mark without having to invest more money in advertising, by just working the cases differently, by tracking the cases differently, by measuring the cases differently, by looking at what we call throughput accounting and making sure we constantly are working on the lowest hanging fruit and having the team understand how to overcome obstacles and move the difficult cases out of the way, put them to a special team, and let the main team not get bogged down. If you want to generate cash in your firm, if you want to grow your firm this upcoming year, pay attention to your new client attraction pipeline and your PCLC. But then don't ignore your PCLC inside of your workflow. Start identifying the stages that you have, how many cases you have in each stage, the value of all of those cases. Start measuring the percentages between those stages. Start running BAM-FAM and start collecting more money quicker because you're paying attention to what we call throughput accounting. If you do that, you're going to drive more revenue. Your expenses are not going to go up, which means you're going to drive more profitability, which means you're going to be allowed to invest more money into marketing and advertising, which is going to allow you to feed the machine further, and that flywheel starts spinning and spinning. And if you're a firm that actually wants to sell, that's the secret. That's how an MSO makes it happen. This is the secret of the game. You want to make it happen in this upcoming year? Go ahead and pay attention to your workflow PCLC.